So much of what we do on this show and as journalists is bearing witness to history as it unfolds and subsequently holding power to account. When you work in this field, this set of skills isn't really optional to learn. It's what we do, and it takes hard work to get good at it. Someone who is really good at that latter part about holding power to account is my own colleague, Mehdi Hasan. If you ever find yourself on the wrong end of a debate with Mehdi, good luck. Mehdi literally wrote the book on winning arguments, and I'm going to talk to him about that in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the master himself at work. I want to play for you a piece of an interview that Mehdi did with Erik Prince, the founder and former CEO of the private military firm Blackwater, back in 2019. Watch this, and you'll see what I mean.
You're a big supporter of Donald Trump. You've been questioned by Special Counsel Robert Mueller over the Russiagate investigation. He's looked at your laptop and your phones, I believe. You've also testified to Congress. In November 2017, you told Congress under oath that you played, quote, no official or really unofficial role in the Trump campaign. What you didn't tell Congress is that on August 3rd, 2016, you were at a meeting during the campaign at Trump Tower with Don Jr., Trump's son, with Stephen Miller, then a campaign advisor to Trump, with George Nader, a former Blackwater colleague of yours who acts as a back channel to the Saudis, the Emiratis. He also happens to be a convicted pedophile. And also Joel Zamel, an Israeli expert on social media manipulation. How come you didn't mention that meeting to Congress, given it's so relevant to their investigation?
I did, as part of the investigations. I certainly disclosed any meetings. The very few I had.
Not in the congressional testimony you gave to the House. We went through it. You didn't mention anything about August 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. They specifically asked you what context you have, and you didn't answer that.
I don't believe I was asked that question.
You were asked, were there any formal communications or contact with the campaign? You said, apart from writing papers, putting up yard signs, no. That's what you said. I've got the transcript of the conversation here.
Sure. I mean, I might have been, I think I was at Trump headquarters, or the campaign headquarters.
Trump
maybe,
Tower, August 3rd, 2016. You,
possible.
An Israeli dude, a back channel to the Emiratis and the Saudis, Don Jr., Stephen Miller.
We're there to talk about Iran policy.
Are you there to talk about Iran policy? Mm-hmm. Don't you think that's something important to disclose to the House Intelligence Committee while you're under oath?
I did.
You didn't. We just went through the testimony. There's no mention of the Trump Tower meeting in August 2016. Why not?
I don't know if they got the transcript wrong.
They got the transcript wrong. So if we go,
I don't know. I remember certainly discussing.
I mean, this is a problem for you because we know that Robert Mueller, he hasn't been able to establish collusion yet, but he has got a lot of guys for lying to the authorities and not telling the whole truth. Is that a problem now? That even if you accidentally didn't tell them, that could come back and haunt you?
I fully cooperated. And I haven't heard from anybody in more than 9 months.
I mean, members of Congress, after they discovered this meeting, have talked about certain witnesses not telling the truth. But you believe you told Congress about this meeting, even though it's not in the transcript, just to be clear?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
That exchange is the very definition of holding power to account. In it, Mehdi not only exposed gaps in an official story the American people had been told, he did it with such style and relentlessness that it moved a national conversation and landed on a COVID lockdown era list of top debates to watch while you are stuck at home. Joining me now is Mehdi Hasan, the host of the Mehdi Hasan Show on MSNBC and Peacock, who literally, as I said, has written the book on how to dominate in an argument. It's titled Win Every Argument, The Art of Debating, Persuading, and Public Speaking, which is available for purchase now. Mehdi, I was going to have some fun with you and start an argument with you to demonstrate your skill, but after having watched that, I'm just not going to. Talk to me, my friend.
You can do it, Ali. Of all people, you can do it.
No, actually, I can't. But thank you for saying that. This book sums up the most important part of our job, mutually our job, holding power to account. The skills that you have developed and mastered and written about here, in your belief, are not optional for journalists. We have to learn how to do this. But talk to me about this not backing down, this how you deal with it when things get uncomfortable, because in some of these interviews that you feature in the book, things get uncomfortable.
Yes, there have been some very uncomfortable moments. I talk about in the book about having interviewed Vitaly Klitschko, mayor of Kyiv, who's now very bravely leading his city against a Russian assault and invasion. But a few years ago, I remember interviewing him, and he got very angry with me after the interview. And I thought, is this former heavyweight boxing champion of the world going to punch me after the interview's over? So there have been some moments where my brashness, in-your-face style can sometimes upset interviewees. But look, I've been saying this for a while, Ali, and I know you agree with me in this. We need need to hold people in power to account, and that means not just throwing softballs. That just doesn't mean just throwing a curveball or one tough question. It means having a plan for an interview, for a debate, for an argument, thinking through what it is we want to get from a conversation, from an interview, from a public exchange, where you want to go. And I think the problem we have with far too many interviews on TV right now is, I mean, to be fair to people in our profession, let's just be fair first. We are in a time-poor environment, right? We're stuck with, I've got to get this politician in 5 minutes, got to get as much out of him as possible. What should I ask him or her in this interview? But on the other hand, there's also the case where even if we have more time, where is the follow-up question? Where are the receipts? You saw in that exchange with Eric Prince that you kindly played at length. My team and I at the time at Al Jazeera English, we got the congressional transcript. We went through every page of it. So when he says, well, I wasn't asked that question. Well, no, you were. Here's page whatever it is. I've got the transcript in my hand. The importance of having receipts, the importance of having a follow-up question, the importance of having done your homework. It's so key because too many of politicians in the current era, especially, Ali, as you know, the Trumpian variety, the gaslighters in chief, the people who want to live in an alternate reality, they're able to get away with it if they're not put under pressure, if they're not, if their feet aren't held to the fire on TV. It's so rare they even do interviews with people like you and I. I've only had a handful of Republican Congress members come on my show, or Republican voices, and in those moments you can't afford to waste time, because without that holding to account, what is left for our democracy?
Let me ask you about what you just said about these candidates who run for office. We saw a remarkable display of disinformation and lies during the 2022 midterm season from MAGA candidates. Some of them, like Herschel Walker and Marjorie Taylor Greene, brought their lies to a debate stage. On the other hand, you had candidates like the Arizona Democrat Katie Hobbs, who would not debate her opponent, Kari Lake, saying that to do so would be to give her a platform for her lies. What's the right answer to these things? Should liars always be debated?
That is a great question. That is the $64,000 question. And I would say, the short answer is no. They shouldn't always be debated. I would refuse to have a climate change denier or a Holocaust denier on my show. It's pointless. It doesn't go anywhere. This book is about how to win good faith disagreements, good faith arguments, good faith debates. We live in an era of bad faith arguments, people who are grifting, people who are pushing propaganda, people who are serial fabricators, people who have made up their entire resume, e.g. George Santos sitting in Congress. There are certain people there's no point arguing with, and if I wrote a sequel to this book, I would probably added a chapter of when to walk away from an argument. Personally, I have a principle on my own show here on MSNBC that I won't have election deniers on the show. That's my personal choice. That doesn't apply across the network. Our colleague Ari Melber did an excellent interview the other day with Matt Gaetz, who's an election denier. So we, each to their own is what I say in terms of, where you draw the line at who you will or will argue with. But I will say this, if you are stuck in an argument with a Trump-style candidate, there's a chapter in the book called Beware the Gish Galloper. In debate circles, Ali, there's a phrase called Gish Galloping. It comes from evolution deniers who came up with this ruse, this strategy in public debates to just talk endlessly. They talk endlessly all the time. And in the book, I talk a great deal about how you stop a person like that. So there are strategies that can work even with a Trump-style interviewee.
Mehdi, it is an excellent book. You are an excellent colleague. This is our second network together. We were both at Al Jazeera together, and I continue to learn from you, my friend. So thanks for writing this so you can actually share the wisdom that you bring to TV every day. Mehdi Hasan is the host of The Mehdi Hasan Show right here on MSNBC. He's the author of a remarkably important book, How to Win Every Argument, The Art of Debating, Persuading, and Public Speaking.